Welcome to Bignor Roman Villa. This short film has been produced to give you an overview of the villa before you look around, helping make your visit as enjoyable as possible. Bignor Roman Villa is situated slightly east of the village of Bignor on the South Downs. It was approximately 10 miles from the Roman town Noviomagus Regentium, known today as Chichester. This would have been less than half a day's journey by foot. Also close by was Stane Street, a Roman road built during the 1st century AD linking Chichester and London. Noviomagus Regentium had become the military base of the 2nd Legion, and Stane Street provided an easy route to Londinium, Roman London, which was a major commercial centre. However, by 75 AD, when the military base was no longer required, Noviomagus Regentium had become occupied by civilians and was primarily a market town. It was the 18th of July 1811, whilst George Tupper, a local farmer, was ploughing one of his fields, when his plough hit what appeared to be a large stone. In fact, George Tupper had actually hit upon what is thought to be the piscina, a water basin, which is in the summer dining room where the Ganymede mosaic can be found. After its original discovery, John Hawkins, a resident at Bignor Park, took charge of the excavations, placing it under the supervision of Samuel Lysons, a prominent antiquary at the time. For almost 8 years, Hawkins did almost all of the digging until the death of Lysons in 1819. Then, in 1925, S.E. Wimbolt carried out some minor work before Shepherd Freyer carried out further excavations in an attempt to establish the chronology of the villa for the very first time. Thomas Tupper, the great-great-great-great-grandson of George Tupper, then undertook yet more excavations with Margaret Rule and David Rudling, mostly in the 1970s and 80s. In fact, it is worth noting the ownership of the villa is still in the hands of the Tupper family today. It is clear from recent excavations that Bignor was not built in one go for one particular owner. Instead, it was extended and expanded through time. It is believed the villa started out as a simple farmstead, which had already been built around the end of the 1st century AD, and coins found at the site support this idea because they date to the Emperor Trajan, who ruled between 98 and 117 AD. However, the earliest structural remains were of a timber-framed house which are dated to the end of the 2nd century AD. Some of the remains are found in an excavation trench through rooms 31, 28A and 34. The discovery of a coin from the Emperor Commodus's reign, which was between 180 to 192 AD, confirms this theory. The first villa was destroyed by a fire between 225 and 250 AD. It is believed that the first masonry villa was built in the middle of the 3rd century. It was small and would only have encompassed 4 rooms. But not much later, in the second half of the 3rd century, this was extended, adding an extra room and portico, as well as an underfloor heating system, known as a hypercaust. The walls were made primarily from flint, but also chalk and lower greensand. Wing rooms were built onto the ends of the portico, giving the building an impressive approach. By the end of the 3rd century, the west wing had been rebuilt and the great courtyard with its north and south wings were added. The new wings of the villa were built of lower greensand stones. A suite of baths started to be built on the side of the west wing. However, these for an unknown reason were never completed. There is no evidence that a floor was laid, water flues built, or any signs of heat. Instead, a new block was added onto the east end of the south wing. In time, the barn and animal shed were demolished and replaced by a larger one in the southeast corner, while the north wing was extended by a further 6 rooms, most likely to house extra people. The baths were extended and a portico was added to join the east ends of the north and south wings, giving a more impressive facade. A few more rooms were added to the north wing, which might indicate that some owners had become richer than others. The final extensions of the villa and their mosaics can be dated around the beginning of the 4th century. The decline of the villa cannot be dated accurately. Without evidence of fire, it can only be deduced from the decay of the timbers that the villa was eventually deserted. Very few of the coins on the site date later than the Emperor Constantine, who ruled between 306 and 337 AD, and there is a lack of pottery from the end of the 4th century. However, it is presumed that the villa was occupied into the 5th century, since there are no signs of destruction. The major furnace flues in the bath were discovered blocked, which would indicate the end of extravagant bathing. As you can see, we only actually have a very small proportion of the villa left, but what is left is in extremely high quality. Unfortunately, we do not know who exactly lived at the villa, since no records exist from the Roman period to tell us. Most experts agree that it would have been a Romano-British family, but an immigrant family should not be ruled out. Because the villa was located so closely to Stane Street, it allowed easy access to Novio Magus Regentium, and the fact the soil surrounding the villa was of such high agricultural quality, it allowed the inhabitants at Bignor to become rather wealthy. The expansion of the villa was altered to accommodate a farming family which grew in size. A ring was found on site in 1818 during excavations. It was made of gold and therefore was probably owned by somebody important, and definitely wealthy, most likely the owner of the villa. Previously, in the Roman Empire, laws had been passed only allowing senators or knights to wear rings, and although the dating of the ring is significantly later, it was only the wealthy who tended to wear gold rings. Bignor Roman Villa has some of the finest mosaics in the country, which date primarily to the 4th century AD. These therefore allow a fascinating contrast with Fishbourne Roman Palace's mosaics, which are dated to the 1st and 2nd century AD. Other mosaics which draw parallels are at Sparsholt in Hampshire and Chilgrove in West Sussex. As you tour the villa, keep a lookout for some of these mosaics. We hope you have an enjoyable visit.